Om Ganati Miranda Syangana Gana Sarakya Chaksurun Miritam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Karamayam Darati Swaparantikam Vande Hum Sri Guru Siyata Parakamanam Sri Gurun Vaishnavam Sri Rupam Sagadatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Stam Sajevam Sadvaitam Sabadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Larita Shri Vishakan Vitam Scha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tiramane Namaste Saraswati Devi Guruvani Pacharine Vijet Sunyori Praskada Desadarine Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Narayanam Namaskritam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tito Jayo Dhirayat Nashta Prayasho Badvesu Nityam Bhagata Sevya Bhagati Uttamashwaki Bhaktir Bhavati Naistaki Nigama Kapataru Karidam Param Shukamakaram Ridham Raprasamritam Pibata Bhagatam Rashamarayam Mahora Hora Sikabhavi Babu Kaham. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Motivational Monday. Jimmy and Taruni, Anjali, Thomas, Sundari Priya are the ones that I recall. I think Sundari Priya is putting something out on WhatsApp. I just got a drop-down notification about that. Bill, Radhe Sham, nice to be with you all. We had an exciting weekend. Saturday night our talk was Times of Testing. I got a good response. I'm going up to 60 comments. People joined us live. And they also looked at the talk afterwards. And then last night it was never too late. I forgot to change the setting on the phone to cell. So it was on the internet, and the internet in the temple is really bad. So it was cutting in and out a bit, which was not ideal. But good talk. If you didn't catch it live, I suggest go back and listen to it again. I've listened to it twice myself since then. It was good. So we're going to go on another round of Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday Srimad Bhagavatam class here to start off this week. And of course, Tuesday, tomorrow is Radhastami. We'll have to do something special for that. If you joined our Zoom call, as Anjali did, and of course our Salt Lake members, we had a wonderfully inspiring, we were churning the nectar about Radharani. Again, if you weren't on that live, take the opportunity to go to any of our pages, Caru, Utah, Caru Das, Hare Krishna Temple of Salt Lake City, Sri Sri Radha Krishna Temple of Spanish Fork, and tap into that Zoom call where we had a number of different Good Morning Bye members of the Salt Lake congregation, as well as Anjali and Vijay Krishna from the Portuguese Azores. Everybody made a wonderful contribution. Yeah, I would advise that to get in the mood for tomorrow, for Radhastami. So we started this verse at the end of last week on Wisdom Wednesday, and we didn't exhaust all that we could think of to say about that, and so we're going to do part 2, verse 34, second chapter, first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhavati Esha Satbena, good morning Govindade, Lokan Vai Loka Bhavana, Lilavatara That's beautiful. Lilavatara Nurato Devya Tiryan Naradishu. Thus, the Lord of the universe maintains all planets inhabited by the demigods, men and lower animals. Assuming the roles of incarnations, he performs pastimes to reclaim those in the mode of pure goodness. Purport. There are innumerable material universes, and in each and every universe there are innumerable planets inhabited by different grades of living entities in different modes of nature. The Lord incarnates himself in each and every one, and in each and every type of living society. He manifests his transcendental pastimes amongst them just to create the desire to go back to home, back to Godhead. The Lord does not change his original position, but he appears to be differently manifested according to the particular times, circumstances, and society. When the president visits the prison house, he should not make the mistake of concluding that he's there for the same reason that the prisoners are. He shouldn't think, what's the president doing here? What crime is he committing? The president doesn't go to the prison house under the same circumstances as the prisoners. The prisoners are forced to go there because of the negative results of their bad choices. But the present is not forced to go there. He goes there of his own sweet will. And his desire is to try to, by his presence, inspire the prisoners with a different attitude, a different point of view. He'd like to have them follow the laws, be good citizens, finish the terms of their incarceration, and when they get out, not be recidivists, not slide back into a life of criminality, but have a change of heart whereby they follow the laws and enjoy the many, many freedoms that honest, law-abiding citizens enjoy. Similarly, this world is not our home. This is the conditioned world. We're conditioned by birth, death, disease, and old age, hunger, thirst, hurricanes, tornadoes, miseries due to our own mind and body, miseries due to other living beings. This is not freedom by any stretch of the imagination. The soul is spirit. It shouldn't be weighed down and burdened by matter. It shouldn't be conditioned by material elements. I feel inspired for a little poetry now. How about a little encouragement out there? Can I see some emojis? Anyway, it says the inner soul continues when the outer body ends, like flame from wood sparks ascending, transcending dark matter, blending with the sky. Invisible to the naked eye, you cannot kill nor can you die. That's the spirit. You cannot burn nor can you fry. The soul cannot be scorched by any blaze, not drowned by any water, nor withered by the wind. You cannot cut another one, nor can you bleed. The soul is eternal, unborn, a seed, indivisible, indestructible, forever free from birth, death, old age, and disease. Yet howsoever turned or tossed, the soul can never itself exhaust. Seated in the heart, beating its drum, power in everyone bright in the sun, the soul's superior force lives on and runs its endless course in God's unlimited universe. That's the life of freedom that we're created to live, that God, our loving Father, our Creator, wants for us. And so it's up to us then, having fallen away, having turned our backs on the Lord and kind of started to muck around here in this material world, it's up to us to try to climb our way back into the mode of goodness, just like in the prison house. If you're breaking all the rules in the prison house, you're not going to get out anytime soon. So you need to, first of all, to get out of the prison house, you need to become a model prisoner. Do what they tell you to do. Contribute in some way. Then that's not equivalent to liberation. That's not equivalent to getting out. But it is a springboard. It's a prerequisite. When you're a model prisoner, then you're eligible for release. You're eligible for parole. So it says the Lord appears and particularly interacts with those in the mode of goodness. It's important to be in the mode of goodness. That's why whenever you get initiation by a bona fide spiritual master, at the time of initiation, he asks you to give up. Of course, you wouldn't be sitting in front of initiation unless you'd already put that behind you, at least 6 months already. But he makes you promise that as you have been following these 4 restrictions prior to initiation, you will continue to follow those and thus continue to be in the mode of goodness throughout your devotional career. And those are no illicit sex, no gambling, no intoxication, low meat eating. Bobby says I have to speak louder. Is that true? I'm not speaking loud enough. I feel like I am speaking quite loud. Who else agrees with her? Anyway, let's see, where were we? We're all doing time in Shashank dreaming of Zuatanejo. In any case, it's up to us to get into the mode of goodness. Now the Lord, on his part, he extends himself, he manifests himself, he appears as avatars and besides. Govinda, thank you, Govinda, for telling me you can hear just fine, so I don't have to shout now. I just continue in my normal stentorian voice. So the Lord appears, just like we gave the example, the president appears within the prison house, but he doesn't appear. In other words, Galoke Vanas Zati Akala Mabuto. Chandrasekhar says the sound is okay for him too. Thank you. So get past that diversion then. The Lord appears and he doesn't appear. Natasya karanam karanam chabidite natat samyas chabadika sadish parasha shaktir vividaiva suryate shabavika bala kriyanaham. The nature of the Lord being omnipotent is that he personally doesn't have to come. He comes, but through his expansions. He personally can never leave the association of the gopis and the goddesses of fortune in the spiritual world. So he said, Krishna never, although he's all pervasive, although there isn't a spot where he is not, at the same time, he never sets foot outside of Vrindavan. And that's an indication of his omnipotency. It is said that although he is always in the association of his Nitya Siddha devotees, he at one and the same time is so powerful that simply by the expansion of his multifarious potencies, among which are sattva gun, rajagun, and tama, goodness, passion, and ignorance, that he creates and maintains both the material and the spiritual world. And this is an element of his perfection. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Udachyate. The Lord is perfect and complete. The Lord is full in and of himself. Whatever creations emanate from him are also fully equipped. So when the Lord appears within the prison house of this material world as either as a Purusha avatar, a Guna avatar, a Leela avatar, that incarnation is sufficient manifestation of his mercy, of his desire for us to, first of all, elevate to the mode of goodness, and secondly, get out of this material world and come back to him. That incarnation is fully empowered to bring about our liberation. But we have to do our part, which is to get into the mode of goodness. Prabhupada says here, because the Lord is perfect, everything works as if he were directly supervising and taking part in it, although he's not. Because his energies are also perfect. He's perfect, so his energies lack nothing so far as the creation, maintenance, and dissolution of this world, and so far as making himself available, giving his darshan to the fallen conditioned soul. So everything's working perfectly without his personal supervision. I hope that at least that's a takeaway for you this afternoon. However, we ourselves have to meet him insofar as we need to purify our hearts. You cannot see that extension of the Lord appearing within this material world, manifesting his glories, his beauty, his wisdom, his power, with the purpose of attracting us back to him, gathering us back to his sheltering breast. You cannot see him, you cannot appreciate him, you cannot intimate him unless your eyes are tinged with the salve of love, unless your heart is melted and your eyes are tinged with the salve of love. Lord Brahma says, Premanjana Churita Bhakti Balochanena Santa Sadaiva Hridayashu Bilokyanti Yam Shayama Sundara Machinta Gunashurupam Govindam Ari Purusham Tamahang Bhajamayi. Krishna is visible not through material vision, not through our ordinary eyes, but Krishna, that Krishna who expands himself and manifests before us in this material world, who also comes in his oral incarnation within sound vibration, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. We cannot perceive Krishna within sound vibration. We cannot understand or resonate with the incarnations and the avatars of Krishna unless our hearts are purified and unless our eyes are tinged with the salve of love. Prabhupada says, this is the sum and substance of Bhakti Yoga. If you want to see that Lord of the Lord as Shyama Sundar with a color, the cloud of a monsoon, the color of the monsoon cloud, playing his flute, standing by the bank of the river Yamuna with the most enchanting smile on his face. If you want to see Nataraj, Krishna, dancing on the hoods of Kaliya or in the Rasa Leela with his devotees, if you want to see Murlidhar holding the flute to one side while playing along the holes with his lips and making the most enchanting, attracting sounds within all the three worlds. If you want to see him as Tribhanga Lalita, standing in his threefold bending way with the flute to his lips, the color of a monsoon cloud, sometimes dancing with his pure devotees, you have to see him, not with material eyes, but with the eye of the soul of the devotee in the trance of devotional service. Alola Chandaka Lasad Vanyamala Vamsi Ratnagaram Pranaya Kali Kalabadasham Shayamam Tribhanga Lalitani Adapakasham Govindam Aripurusham Tamahang Bajami. Lord Brahma, who's the creator of the universe, and how can I do less, right? Let's save ourselves a lot of time and trouble and research, and just follow in the footsteps of the great souls. So as a result of his eyes being tinged with the salve of love, as a result of his heart being cleared out and being situated in Vishuddhasattva, pure goodness, this is what Lord Brahma saw in his heart of hearts and his soul of souls. And this is who he worships. Govinda, the primeval Lord, round whose neck is swinging a garland of flowers beautified with the moon locket, whose two hands are adorned with the flute and jeweled ornaments, who always revels in pastimes of love, whose graceful threefold bending form of Shyama Sundar is eternally manifest. Bhagavad Gita, 14th chapter, 26th verse. Mam chayabhya bacharine bhakti yogana sevate sagunam samatita ta brahma bhuya kalpate. What do we have to do to be able to see God face to face? And what is that? What has to be engaged without any cessation, without any interruption, unfailing in all circumstances. When you reach that 24/7 absorption of and engagement in the service of Lord, Prabhupada said, the magic begins. One transcends Trigunyabhishya, the three modes of nature. Gunamatamatit dehi deshmu janma mrityajaram vimuktam mritam ashnute. When you transcend by virtue of 24-hour, 7-day-a-week devotional service, it says vimuktam mritam ashnute. You drink the nectar of liberation. You drink the nectar of immortality. You may still be in this current incarnation, but even so, you cannot be considered amongst the category of conditioned souls. One who is 24/7 engaged in this iha yasya hare dasha is considered a liberated soul even in this body. And he may go through some conditions yet until leaving this body, but it is to be guaranteed that at the time of leaving this present body, he will not take another material body. He will never again experience birth, death, old age, and disease. He will never experience miseries due to higher living entities, miseries due to the binding body, miseries due to miseries due to the mind, miseries due to other living entities. His life of misery is finished. The liberated soul still within this current body is often likened to a coconut whose inside has become dried out. You know, on occasion you can take a coconut and shake it, and you hear the inner pulp, the inner part of the coconut has detached itself from the outer shell. So you can hear it rattling inside there. So a liberated soul is detached from this encasement, from this body, and he's already seen Krishna. I was in Australia one time. Two young men came. They were nice boys, part of Yogananda's Science Self-Realization Fellowship. And they asked God, Prabhupada, have you seen God? Have you seen God? And there was a little bit of back and forth. And then Prabhupada finally said, yes, I am seeing God at every moment. So a mundanist, person without eyes tinged, a person knowing nothing about the path of purification of bhakti, would just see Prabhupada as an elderly, Indian Swami, 70 years old, Bengali, from Calcutta, pharmacist, family man, without qualifications in the devotional service of the Lord. One sees the Guru in terms of his birth, his gender, his background, his nationality. My Prabhupada indicated to these two young men, yes, I have seen God, and I am seeing God at every moment. And that means, aside from external conditions and circumstances and conditions, the soul who's seeing God, who's engaged in God's service 24 hours a day, is tasting the nectar of immortality. One example is that of Dhruva Maharaj. Now, Dhruva Maharaj, he had a lot of baggage. He had a lot of history, as most of us know. He was prevented from getting up on the lap of his stepfather because he'd remarried a younger mother, and then that stepson of Dhruva's ended up being promoted over him because the king didn't want to offend his younger and prettier wife, and yada, 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 yada. Same stuff that's been going on since the beginning of time, power and prestige and jockeying for position and palace conspiracies and stabbing in the back and betrayals. Nothing new there. And Dhruva was very much a part of that. He wanted to vie with the circumstances. He wanted to assert his right as the oldest son of his father to his claim to the throne. And once he was cut out from there, once he appeared to be disenfranchised, he immediately started to look for means of counteracting his disenfranchisement. But the only resources, the only person he had in his corner was his mother, who was not in favor with the king. So his mother gave him a wonderful piece of advice. She said that if you want to counteract conditions in this material world, if you want to make what has been unfair to you adjusted or fair, there is only one personality who is the champion of the underdogs. And that is Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Dhruva said, well, where is he to be found? And she said, people have gone to the Himalayas and gone to the forest and done austerities, and they have discovered God there. So Dhruva did the same. He followed in the footsteps of the great saints and sages who had pursued God in the remote regions of the Himalayas. He met Narada Muni. Narada Muni at first saw his he was rife with material desires. He was seething with resentment and desires for revenge. And Narada Muni sort of ato nivartatomesha nirvadas tavane yatishanti bhavam kare shreyasam samapasyate. Narada Muni said, you may not be ready for this spiritual quest at the moment. It may be necessary for you to take a cooling off period, go back, chill in the palace, keep a low profile, keep your cards close to your chest. And then when you reach that age when you're closer to being coronated, when your father's closer to retirement, and there's a serious consideration of who will be the heir apparent, then why don't you come back and see me, and I will train you about how to getting the mercy of the Lord. Dhruva Maharaj was having none of that. He was bent on getting restitution here and now. And so he said, Narada Muni, either you help me or you go home. You go back. You retreat, but I'm not retreating. At least it could be said for him, he had that determination of the Kshatriya, the determination of the warrior. So Narada Muni coached him how to do austerities and penances, how to chant Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I worship the Supreme Lord, who is at one and the same time in his spiritual abode, and also capable of appearing before anyone who's devoted to him from anywhere at any time. Om Namo Vasudevaya. What Dhruva learned to do was stand on one leg. He stopped eating first. Then the second stage, he stopped drinking. And then the third stage, he stopped breathing. He merged his incoming breath into his outgoing breath. And when Dhruva Maharaj, by virtue of his Krishna conscious, chanting the names of the Lord, when he became one with the Lord, he became one with Brahman in the course of serving the Lord. Mam chiyo bhakti sagunam samitita Brahma Bhuya Kalpate. He came up to the Brahma Bhuya level, the same level as Krishna. It didn't mean that he became Krishna, as the Mayavadis and the impersonalists would mislead us to believe, but he became one with Brahman. And Prabhupada says, by becoming one with Brahman, the devotee does not merge or lose their individuality. They become one qualitatively with the Lord. So Dhruva Maharaj transcended the modes of material nature, Gunas Sattvan, Gunas Brahma Bhuya Kalpate. By virtue of chanting the holy names of the Lord, he became qualitatively one with the Lord. And what happened at that point was that the whole universe stopped breathing. When Dhruva stopped breathing, nobody else could breathe. By virtue of his oneness with Brahman, who pervades and supports everything in this material world, when Dhruva's breathing stopped, nobody else could breathe. Everybody was choking and turning blue in the face. It's like a universal case of asthma. Prabhupada says here, by associating constantly with the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his heart, Dhruva Maharaj naturally became equal to the greatest, Brahman, by his association, and thus he became the heaviest. Yes, at the same time, although he was only standing on one leg, and obviously he lost weight on his diet of no food, no water, and no air. He obviously didn't personally weigh more than a few pounds, just a 5-year-old boy. But he pushed the earth down. He became, by virtue of his becoming one with Brahman, he stopped up the universal breathing, and the entire earth trembled. Prabhupada says here in conclusion, a person who always concentrates on the transcendental form of Krishna within his heart can very easily strike the whole world with wonder. So our question is, what are we waiting for? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Dhruva wasn't a great saint. He wasn't a great yogi. He wasn't a great... give him a break. He was a 5-year-old boy. And he was full of material desires. Akama, Sarva, Kama, Moksha, Manadi. And yet by chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Anjali says, on one leg, no eating, drinking, or breathing, Dhruva transcended in a way that is unimaginable in Kali Yuga. But actually, it's not unimaginable. It doesn't matter what the yuga is. By virtue of associating with the Lord, one automatically steps away from the limiting factors of goodness, passion, and ignorance. This is a way that anyone, men, women, highborn, lowborn, Kali Yuga, Satya Yuga, anyone, simply on the basis of devotional service to the Lord, can separate oneself from the modes of material nature and eventually see the Lord face to face. Do things that are absolutely amazing, even in this Kali Yuga age. So what are we waiting for? Let's get into it. Let's pick up our beads. Tomorrow's Radhastami. Let's go for it. Let's get the mercy of Radha. Let's get out of this material world and set foot in the transcendental realm. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. The beauty of devotional service, the magnificence of it is that without any prior qualifications of yoga or philosophy or high birth, in fact, with all the disqualifications, look at the example of Dhruva. He was disqualified in so many different ways, but he had that passion, he had the determination, which overrode, which trumped his disqualifications and took him yoginamapi sarvisham madganenantaratmana shraddha bhajatemam teya yuktatama mataha. Krishna says in the 39th verse of the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, yoginamapi sarvisham. Nowadays, we've got yoga studios. You go online and you see people doing all these amazing asanas and contortions, and you think, oh, they're such great yogis and I'm nothing. Well, that's not what Krishna says. Krishna is not impressed by the yoga porn, as they say, that goes on today. Krishna is not impressed by the pretzels and the contortionists. What is it that impresses Krishna? Who, according to Krishna, Yogeshwara, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the goal of yoga, who impresses Krishna? Not necessarily the contortionist, not necessarily the person who's wearing leotards and has a sleek form. No. The greatest of all yogis, according to Krishna, yoginamapi sarvasya, madgate nantaratmanaha. If there's one consideration, they may or may not be able to do asana and pranayama and all the different eightfold. They may or may not be able to do that. But if they are madgate nantaratmanaha, determined in spite of their shortcomings, in spite of their frumpiness, in spite of their not being able to stretch, in spite of not being able to put an ankle behind your neck, in spite of any of those shortcomings, if one has the same determination as Dhruva to put Krishna first place in your life, to make Krishna consciousness your goal of life through the practice of devotional service, madgata aina antaratmana shraddha bhajate yobak, with great faith and love and trust, teme yuktatamo mataha. Krishna says, he who is the greatest of all yogis, who makes me the goal of all of his activities and performs devotional service to me with great transcendental faith, yeme matam manaha, is the greatest. That's my opinion. And we should not discount the opinion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But we ourselves are dependent living beings. We're not independent. We're not very powerful. But he is supremely powerful. Ishvara Sarvabhutanam. Krishna is the Lord of all living beings. Hridesh Arjuna Tishtati. He lives in his own transcendental spiritual abode, and yet out of love and affection for the fallen souls, he expands himself. He accompanies us in the region of the heart. Brahmayan Sarvabhutani Yantarudranamaya. And we, being infinitesimal, tiny, spark-like emanations from the Lord, are seated in this material body as on a machine made of the material energy. And depending on our choices, depending on how we cultivate our consciousness or how we fail to do so, without progressing, without practicing, without cultivation, it's unfortunate that in this contaminated, tainted material world, full of bad association, full of souls who came here with the specific purpose of turning their backs on God and forgetting him, we don't look for anything inherent in this material world for our restoration or redemption. And if we default to the material mode, then we are dragged down to the darkest regions of material existence. Matter is inert, matter is dark, matter sinks. And if you don't exert yourself according to the practices of the great saints and sages, if you don't attach yourself to the lotus feet of one who is above or transcendental to matter, then unfortunately the default setting is that one becomes overwhelmed with ignorance. One becomes even more conditioned by the modes of material nature, and one sinks down to the lowest condition of material existence. That's the bad news. The good news is that we have the option, we have the free will, we have the independence, we have the latitude in the human form of life not to be constantly struggling how to eat, sleep, mate, and defend. We have leisure time, we have freedom. Now, if we spend that leisure time to cultivate spiritual knowledge and devotional service under the guidance of a self-realized soul, then we can, instead of continuing our material conditioned life birth, death, disease, and old age in this world, we can turn things around and become free of all of those anomalies. It can be considered that you're a bodybuilder, just like a guy goes into the gym and he builds his muscles, he builds his abs, he builds his bis and tris, and he builds his glutes. So similarly, by practice of devotional service, you can build your devotion, you can strengthen yourself and your trust and your love for the Lord. So even though we're very small, 1/10,000th the size of the tip of a hair, we can work in the body that we're given and with the mind that we have to purify ourselves and go back to home, back to Godhead. Some of us may have spectacular bodies with dazzling intellects and physical beauty and good background and birth. And some of us may not be so well endowed from a physical or a mental point of view. But if you take what it is, your yantra, for better or worse, richer or poorer, men or women, high or low, doesn't matter. Take your yantra, take this machine of this material body and engage its senses and minds in the service of the Lord, you will get success in life. Prabhupada says here, a person seated in a high-speed motor car goes faster than one seated in a lower car, though the living entities, the drivers, may be the same. Similarly, by the order of the Supreme Soul, material nature fashions a particular type of body to a particular type of living entity so that he may work according to his past desires. And this is our history. Brahmanda Brahmite Konu Bhagavana Jiva Guru Krishna Prasadi Pai Bhakti Lata Desh. Our history, our background is that we've been from one body to another body to another body amongst the 8,400,000 species of life. No one can count the number of previous incarnations that we've been in. We've been up and down from the planets of the demigods down to being a worm in stool. But when you say enough, enough, I've been here long enough to know punat panas chervita chervananam, there's nothing new in this material world. It is simply chewing that which is already chewed. Atato brahma jigasha, now I've got the human form of body. Now is the time to inquire about the absolute truth. When you come to that point of serious inquiry into the nature of life, the nature of the soul, and the nature of the Supreme Soul from whom we come, then Guru Krishna Prasadi Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. Then seeking God, seeking answers, seeking self-realization, Krishna comes, bam, right away with the spiritual master who manifests himself externally to one, nourishes the mercy, the seed of mercy, Bhakti Lata Bij, and guides the aspirant devotee back to home, back to God. Now, that Lord has never left you. He's always accompanied you in the region of the heart. It was we who ignored him. Chetragnam chapi mambidi sarva chetushu bharata chetra chekdadiyanyam yatash gyaram mama. In the 13th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains to Arjuna that I have never been apart from you. We feel alienated. We feel separated. We feel divorced from meaning, from purposefulness, even amongst relatives and family and friends, even amongst spouse and even with our children. We cannot escape a feeling of ontological despair, of loneliness, because we are created to walk with the Lord, to see the Lord as our friend, as our accompany, as the Lord within our heart, to take direction from the Lord, to be illuminated and warmed by the light of the Lord within our heart. And we're so lonely, we're so lost, we're so confused, we're so separated, we're so alienated as a result of having turned our back to that freely and open-handedly offered love and warmth and protection and guidance and friendship. That when you finally turn to the Lord, Hare Krishna, 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 Hari Hari, Hari Rama, Rama Rama, Hari Hari, and seek after a long departure, after a long time away, and you seek to warm yourself again by the fire, to sit in the light rather than cast yourself in shadow with your back to the light. When that happens, you come to Brahma Boyaya Kaupate. Just like Dhruva Maharaj, you become one qualitatively with Brahman. You again revive your spiritual quality. It's like a spark from a fire. It's shot out from the fire, cast some distance away, and the further away it goes from the fire and the longer the period of time passes that it's separated from the fire, the more it loses its fiery quality, from becoming red and glowing and emanating light and heat. It ebbs and ebbs and ebbs and loses more and more and more of its life and vitality. But when that spark once again is replaced into the fire, then it immediately revives all of those lost and misplaced qualities. So similarly, all of us have had the experience, and anyone can have the experience, that as soon as you begin to separate yourself from the activities of the mode of passion and ignorance, give up illicit sex, gambling, intoxication, and meat eating, and take up the positive practice of chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, one's dormant spiritual life is once again revived. One becomes peaceful, one becomes joyful, and one becomes excited, happy, and expectant at being once again able to see the Lord face to face and go back to home, back to Godhead at the end of this term of embodiment. Well, I don't know about you, but I was quite enlivened during the course of that, and I hope that I spoke loudly enough that you could all hear that. I think that was a good Motivational Monday. Thank you for your comments. Anjali, should I take the risk? Let's see, if I do it with this hand, I know that's bad. If I do it with this hand, it's not quite so bad. So let me do it with the right hand. Bill, thank you. Coming through loud and clear. Thank you, Bill. Yeah, I'm able to scroll now without my finger. Someone put a beautiful, dazzling picture of Krishna. Rakesh, Terry, good morning. Dibya, Haribo, Anjali, of course. And we love it when you make comments through the course of the talk. Yes, Rakesh, Shamadasi, Prashant, Manasaganga, Jimmy, Chandra, Shekhar, all the way from India. And he's saying the sound was okay. Govinda Dave, Bill, yes. By Bobby, of course. You need to get your hearing aid by Bobby. She's interviewing for hearing aid. Sanjaya, thank you. Thank you. Everybody, I'm so appreciative. What would it be if I were just Radhe Shyam sitting in a room shouting at a microphone all by myself? It wouldn't be. Sundari Priya, Thomas, thank you. Well, thank you so much. And if you and you haven't commented, at least hit a like. Share with your friends if you think that this is going to be uplifting. You have some friends that are down and depressed during this pandemic. We have lots and lots of stuff on our Facebook page, on our YouTube channel. Like, share it with your friends, get the word out. And until we see each other tomorrow, it's not only Transcendental Tuesday, but it is Radhastami. I'll try to have something special for you. Don't forget to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.